You don't have to worry about this. It's harmless cider. I'm off the wine. I don't want to become an alcoholic. But I don't know if I've had enough yet to sound good. Just playing an E anyway. E is for easy. Favorite things, the Miles Davis version. My middle name is Andrew, you know. Andrew. Scottish. Running quickly through the parody poems, which were written in retaliation for offenses against my copyright by various stars, rock stars and TV stars. Funny Man Phil was Jon Stewart. Slick Singer was Mick Jagger. Jackie the Pro, Jay Leno. Harper Grift, Taylor Swift. Rusty O'Slim, Conan O'Brien. Workers of Fast Go were the workers of NASCO. Cinnamon Gang was Saturday Night Live and Mad TV, I guess. Overweight Oaf was Homer Simpson / Family Guy. Shorty Suffuse was George Carlin, and I prophesied his heart attack when I wrote it the first time in 2007 with exactly the same words. The glass shards were the crystallids when I first noticed them along with everyone else in 2007, although they got kind of buried in with all the other people at that time. Then later I wrote it in retrospect. Porcupine Girls, Dateline NBC. Buck Henry, Dick Cheney, although it's missing 2/3 of its verses now, and I really don't feel like rewriting them. And Suanne Grape was Nancy Grace, although it wasn't written in anger, that one, or in retaliation, but just for fun. Same with Buck Henry, it was just kind of fun. I don't want to provoke Dick Cheney. And I guess Sappho Asparagus would be the last really outstanding one, which was a parody of Ellen DeGeneres. Songs That Don't Rhyme was so named because when I first got started on it, it was a non-rhyming poetry blog. My poems, to start with, were all non-rhyming. If you go back into early February, we have all these poems that don't rhyme. Good as New, The Gift, Bitch Goddess, Envy, Good Riddance, The Hermit, The Joke, Protection, Look No Further, Success, and so forth. The Cocoon, The trend, the lie, virtue, vandals, the war. None of these rhyme, but promise is the first one that rhymes, it looks like. And then clean money rhymes. Then we start slowly getting into rhymes. The vacuum. But then the wellspring not rhyming again. Unmade choice not rhyming. Valentine rhyming like crazy. And you see that I gradually got into a rhyming scheme with my poems after The Judge, Lifetimes, and then once I got into Lifetimes, February 17, 2014, and these are all rewritten, I'm quite sure, then I just kind of kept going with the rhyming verses from there, more or less. With the rhyming verses, they're either 4 verses or 8 verses in length. Only a very few of them bigger than that. The Charm, for instance, is 16 verses, I think. It's twice as long. The Watchers is longer. The Restless one, I think, let me see if that is too. It might be. Yeah, a bit longer, but most of them are 4 verses to 8 verses. Rhyming verses in songs that don't rhyme, all the way from pretty much middle of February 17 down to, all the way down to April 22nd, 2014, with The Soul. But many of them are humorous. Queen Frigg, April 21st, is humorous. It's the story of this fictional queen. And just, a nice little farce. The Commander is another charming, farcical tale. The Wise Man is also very humorous, I think. Kind of a fantasy for an older man like myself. Mistress Nemesis, quite sure was taken by Saturday Night Live. Saw it with my own eyes. Oh, and Queen Frigg was too, wasn't it? Queen Frigg. I think I remember seeing, who was it? Genghis Khan? Attila the Hun with the pudding on his fingers. The Trailblazer was taken by Jay Leno. I saw it on The Tonight Show when it was his show. The Widower was, I saw that, I think, on Ellen, if I'm not mistaken, or at least she appeared in it. The Puritan, Saturday Night Live, took that one, and that's a very funny one, I think. Entropy State, Breaks My Heart, they took that one to Saturday Night Live, but it's a very funny one too. I had tears in my eyes laughing when I was writing that. Let's see. The Vindictive, definitely they took that. I remember them taking it. The Vindictive, about the woman who flips flips out because someone saw her, in an embarrassing moment. So Redeemer, I'm not sure. I suspect though they did. I know the Restless one they did for sure. The Crown, somebody on the internet took that, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm not mistaken, someone did. The False Prophet. False Prophet was Saturday Night Live again, for sure. Took that and left out the vital ending of it, where the guy goes to hell. I guess it was funny enough for their sketch, but you get the idea. And then the Restless one, I think they did take that. It's a pretty funny one. The Charm, I think they might have taken it. Iniquia, I know for sure they took that one. It's another very funny one. Iniquia, long one. And then amid all this, we have my own little protest here, Age of the Image, which is just, it's not a story at all, but an autobiographical poem about the experience of having my work stolen, used against me. I guess that about ends it for the visible crime on this one, visible to my eyes anyway, on songs that don't rhyme. Other than the parody poems that I listed earlier, which each star took as their own, so that people would be confused. And that brings us over to the other blog, the other big poetry blog, which is Story Blog. And even though Story Blog starts at the marathon, which I'm quite sure was taken by Saturday Night Live, a poem that goes on for 64 rhyming verses of 2 rhyming couplets each. These poems in here are actually only 7 of the 8 poems of their overall group, because one of them was written in chaos and cartoonery, and that was the obelisk, which was also stolen by Saturday Night Live, was it? Here, completed in June 6, 2016, and all rewritten from top to bottom. Another very long work of rhyming verses. So then with the marathon, which is kind of a funny story really, the marathon. Why they took it, of course. Then we move on to the Herald, another one, and this is the one that had verses taken by The Simpsons. One of them anyway was taken by The Simpsons. Which, let's see if I can find it here. Is it this one? The one about chick with the poison fingernails. But it's so frustrating when you're writing something and Abbey. And with her poisoned fingertips was aiming for his chin, you know. I wasn't thinking Marge Simpson there, but they took it. It's very frustrating when you're an author. They do that to your work. Then, after the Herald came the masterpiece. No, after the Herald came The Heavenly Escapade, my space poem. Another one taken by Saturday Night Live. Completed here July 9, 2016. Another giant work of 64 rhyming verses, each verse consisting of 2 rhyming couplets. Then we move on to the masterpiece, another work of, again, 8 chapters of 8 verses, and again with the Tunesmith, and again with the Mammals, August 1st, 2016, and finally with the Tartar War by August 10, 2016. And that's a pile of rhyming verses all done just in the span of looks like here from June to August, just over a few months, which shows you that I'm capable of producing this poetry in great quantities in over a short period, that I'm quite prolific with my rhyming verses. And this is why you can believe that a lot of this material was all crammed into this period where they were taking my blogs and broadcasting them on TV. Now with my poems, no one's ever asked me how I was able to write them, because people don't believe that I do write them. But the way I write them is by putting effort into it. At first I identify what I want to say, then I just loosely put it in any kind of form that kind of remotely resembles what I want to do. Then I start tweaking it, and when I'm rhyming, I never use a rhyming dictionary. Never. Never. Not once have I ever used one. I just rhyme by fashioning the sentence from back to front, by starting with the word that I intend to rhyme and building back from there. And that's all I ever have to do to be able to write rhyming verses well. The other thing is the thesaurus, because your first choice will not probably fit the meter of your line, but then you have your thesaurus that can give you a synonym that will fit into your meter. Like one example was where I needed a 2-syllable word for lie, and I just couldn't think of it. And in the thesaurus, I found falsehood, and it fit beautifully into what I was trying to write. And the thesaurus will also cram your vocabulary over time to where you don't need to use it as much, because you just, from using the words in the past, you just add them to your vocabulary. It's very nice. But I suppose that's all we need to talk about on the poems, and then they're meant to be read anyway, and maybe I might make a book out of them or something one day. Okay, so that's enough of that. And if people are going to rip me off and use my music on Sunsets, then I should be allowed to play an E and make it sound like Favorite Things, and use it on my sunset video, because a sunset is one of my favorite things.